Hey everyone, time for another how-to video. This time we'll look at how to capture and record footage from almost all home consoles. We'll go from the Atari 2600 to the PS4. Not that I own all consoles in between or anything. We'll start with the newest consoles and work our way forward into the past. Since I live in North America, the TVs and consoles are all NTSC, so keep that in mind. Consoles with HDMI will be the same, but things could be different with older consoles that output analog signals. In other words, we won't be talking about SCART cables. What I use to capture all my gameplay footage is the Elgato Game Capture HD. It accepts pretty much everything, no matter how new or old. It does NTSC and PAL as well. Another good thing about it is that it works both with Macs and PCs. Just plug it in with a USB cable. It can take HDMI and analog inputs like composite and component. Essentially, the Game Capture HD sits between the console and the TV. It can handle resolutions all the way up to 1080p. 1080p can be recorded at 30 frames per second, while 720p and lower can be recorded at 60 frames per second. If you want to capture 1080p at 60 frames per second, you'll need the Game Capture HD 60, which is a similar device but only accepts HDMI devices. I intend to buy one for PS4 and PC footage, but as of this video, I don't have one yet. Essentially, our basic setup for pretty much every console will look like this. Game Capture HD connected to a computer of your choice, and the HDMI output goes to your TV. Let's start off with some more recent consoles. The Wii U, PS4, Xbox 360, and Xbox One are very straightforward. Plug one end of the HDMI cable into the console, and the other into the capture device. In the Game Capture software, just select which console you want to record, though since they're all HDMI, there shouldn't be any difference really. That was easy, but hold on, there's a bit more to it. The Wii U and Xboxes are all good to go, but for the PS4, you'll have to turn off HDCP in the settings before hooking everything up. If you don't, you'll get a black screen. You can turn off HDCP by going into the settings, then System, then uncheck HDCP. Once that's off, you're all set. If your PC has HDMI out, you can hook it up like any other HDMI device as well. On to the PS3. If you have a PS3, you're probably thinking, but that's HDMI too. You're correct, but again, Sony's being a pain in the ass here. HDCP on the PS3 is not turn-offable. We have to circumvent this nonsense with this cable that comes with the Game Capture HD. You can plug the cable into the AV port of the PS3. Change the setting to PlayStation 3 in the Game Capture software. You then switch the display setting from HDMI to component/D terminal in the settings of the PS3. It's annoying having to change display settings all the time though. Worst part is, you have to have the PS3 connected with an HDMI cable to the TV at the same time, then switch over display output to component/D terminal, then switch over your TV to the HDMI input that the Game Capture device is connected to. Thanks, Sony. But that's not all. The picture quality is noticeably worse, because the signal gets converted to analog when it goes out of the PS3 and back to digital by the capture device. Everything is softer and the sound gets affected by this too. There is a way around this though, by using this specific HDMI splitter. It's called the C-Kits BG520. You can find a link in the description. What it does is it can get around HDCP. What you do is plug your PS3's HDMI cable into the splitter's input, and the output goes into the Game Capture device. Now you won't have to use the quality degrading AV cable. It does add to the cable clutter though. This splitter should work with any HDCP protected device, which means you can also use it to record PlayStation TV footage. As an FYI, you can connect your TV to one of the splitter's outputs instead of the capture device's output. Depending on how your setup is, this might be more convenient for you. Now that we have the HDMI consoles out of the way, let's have a look at older consoles. Pretty much anything with composite and component plugs can be hooked up here. NES, SNES, Super Famicom, N64, GameCube, Wii, Master System, Genesis, Saturn, Dreamcast, PS1, PS2, and the Xbox One, sorry, I meant the original Xbox, among others can be connected this way. It's pretty simple, just match the colors. Whatever console it may be, if it's composite or component, just set the capture software to the appropriate setting, obviously, and record away. If you have a Wii, I would suggest connecting it with a component cable, since that way you can record in progressive rather than interlaced. If you have a Wii Mini, you'll have to settle with just composite. If you want to record GameCube games, I would recommend using an original Wii with GameCube backwards compatibility. This way you can record progressive without having to spend tons of money on a rare GameCube component cable. Just as a side note, if you have a Super Game Boy for the Super Nintendo or a Game Boy player for the GameCube, you can easily record Game Boy games that way. Okay, so that covered almost everything, but what about systems that use RF cables like the Atari 2600 or other consoles of the period? The cheapest solution is to get a VCR. Easy enough to find. They're still available new, and obviously you'll find an avalanche of used ones in thrift stores. Hookup is simple. You need an RCA cable, one end connects to the console, and the other goes into the VCR. Doesn't quite fit, does it? The simple act of employing an RCA to coax converter ensures compatibility. Connect the VCR with composite or component cables to the capture device. Now all that's left to do is set the VCR channel to whatever channel the console is set to. In this case, channel 3. That pretty much covers most home consoles, though I'm sure there are more obscure systems that deserve their own videos on how to capture footage. I just have one thing to add here, specifically to the consoles that are meant for CRT televisions. Since the Game Capture HD outputs everything to HDMI, you'll have to play the old consoles on flat screen displays, as you won't be able to connect them to a CRT screen. This is annoying to me, since I have an awesome 36-inch Sony Trinitron CRT for my vintage gaming, and having to play them on an LCD TV just makes them look ugly. You know, because of scan lines and stuff. Making vintage games look good on LCD screens is another topic of discussion, and frankly, I'm not knowledgeable enough to talk about that sort of thing. Anyway, I just thought it was worth bringing up. I hope you found the video helpful. If there's anything I missed, please let me know. I know I haven't really explained terms like HDCP, interlaced, and progressive, but the video would have been quite a bit longer if I did. As always, please comment and like the video. Subscriptions are always welcome too. See you in the next video.